We are on now to the budgeting tools for year 2021-2022. Student enrollment trends and staff guidelines and a whole bunch of other information. I'm actually, hopefully everybody can see my agenda, or actually our FAC agenda. And Oscar, was that a good or a yes?
Yes, Connie.
Okay, thank you. And so we've got several reports here, and hopefully right here as I'm pointing on the budgeting tools, and I can go there right now. The books are all, and again, let me know if it's not working the way I'm talking or describing. So here you do have the books individually by district, especially for folks that are new to us and maybe haven't gone through this with us. So your books are here. The books are about 60 some odd pages roughly. This one that says all districts and charters comes in really handy because as some of the reports over here, and now I'm trying to actually get back to the agenda, and hopefully we're back on the agenda. These reports are just the report district by district by district. So I'm gonna take a quick look at, and I really should pay attention to the time, but the student enrollment comparison by type. And this was a report that actually should be coming up any minute. Oscar, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this was the only report I think I got to share with the superintendents earlier this month. And they did, I did send the email, and well, actually Dr. Solis sent the email to your superintendents. So they have the link for the budgeting tools and where they're located. So on this one, we actually do show, and some of you have definitely had enrollment drops and pretty significant drops from one year to the next. And a few have had some growth. And so that's a plus, but the majority, as you look at the districts and charters even, have had decreases. And just as a reminder, we do separate out IDEA public schools within Region 1. There was an increase, and outside of Region 1. But overall, we are definitely, our region is definitely having less students. You can see that by the 438,000, and especially when you consider the region, the IDEA schools number that's in there that's really not even within our region. You know, so you see the 62,000. United continues to be a little bit larger than Brownsville. So some of this trending information, and again, keep in mind, elementary is really where you don't want to see these huge losses, because you know that's where the kids start out with you, you hope, pre-K or K, first grade, and stay with you through 12th grade. So please, and again, cabinet level type reports that you should be sharing, hopefully with everybody at cabinet. And even your superintendent will decide who to, you know, in terms of board information too. The 5-year enrollment, all districts. This one's really, I love this one. I love the attendance, right? Because you've got to get the kids in the classroom. And actually there's still some discussion, I believe, I hope actually, and I don't know if Josh is still on here, on the one about funding based on enrollment, but I don't know that this would be the time for the state to actually take that up, even though any time is a good time for that. But this one does show you, here are the last 5 years worth of enrollment, and it gives you the 18-19% in attendance and the 19-20% in attendance. And keep in mind, your 19-20% in attendance is the first 4-6 weeks for that year, because that's when the pandemic obviously started impacting and districts or schools had to go totally remote. So this is only 4-6 weeks worth of attendance. But some of you are very, very comparable, which is good, And some actually, PSJA, I mean, half a percentage point roughly of a gain. So that's great. And that was only based on the first 4-6 weeks and so forth. So that is that one.
Connie,
Let's see.
I half heard you. Did you need something on enrollment versus attendance, or I know y'all are trying to stick to your timeline. Do you want me to
Oh,
add
and
anything?
that's okay. That's okay, Josh. Just that there was a bill at some point that was being looked at. There were two actually, one on the House, one on the Senate, that were
Hmm.
going at funding districts on enrollment versus attendance. And if
Yeah,
that was
yeah, that's
still
that's
moving.
correct. They haven't gotten a hearing yet. They're not moving, and so um, we're keeping our eye on it. There's two, like you mentioned, that would make the change, and then I think one or two that just studied the potential of making a change, and so it's something that lawmakers are talking about for sure.
Thank you, Josh. And that'll be great. I mean, whether it's happens now or whether it's just a study for now. The next report, the students that left your district, and again, these reports are now the longer reports because Brooks and 2 pages on the Brooks CISD info. Here's Brownsville and 2 pages on Brownsville. Here's Donna and so forth. So these are nice when you want to see, okay, this is us, but how do we compare to everybody else? So and these are reports for those of you that are using the Forecast 5 products, please compare them. They should match up. And these are students within Texas, the ones that we can actually within Region 1, so you may have lost children to Dallas ISD or Austin or wherever, but we can't track that. That's already crossing the Region 1 area. So I didn't even think to ask about Forecast 5 because I'm thinking they're looking at the whole statewide data. So again, a good report to compare to. And then the new students to ISDs. So again, same type of report. New students to Brooks, they gained from Edinburgh 4 students, United 2, and again, 2 pages on that because it does give it to you in 2 different formats. Brownsville, they lost students as we saw to IDEA, and then they gained a lesser amount. So you definitely want to keep up with your competitors as far as that goes. So we're moving here right along. I know my screen takes a little bit here. Let's see here. Now these reports, and again, the format I'm showing you is all of the districts and all of the charters, one after the other. Please look at them in your book and then decide which ones you need more information on. So this one is the one that's actually listing your campuses. And Brooks just became ours a couple of years ago in terms of Region 1. Thank you for that. Brownsville here. So we have more years on Brownsville. So here's the high school and the comparison numbers. I'm gonna go down here to my home district, Edinburgh. So just looking at their numbers and how they're comparing, maintaining, and so forth. And this is a really quick report for cabinet discussion if you unfortunately have to start talking about closing campuses. Actually, Brownsville's bear with me and the flipping up and down. Brownsville is definitely an example of they had Resaca Elementary get all the way down to 276 and Victoria Heights Elementary get down to 311 and even Longoria. And so at that point, and it takes years sometimes for districts to make these moves to get community support, board support. So look at the trend of what's going on with the campus. As difficult as it is, sometimes districts just have to close campuses down. This report has all of the district information. Now I believe this is not a data point, on data suite report. So it's similar to what you've seen in the past, but I believe this is one that the format changed just a little bit, just the viewing. It still has the same data. So again, I was very surprised to see the pre-K. There have been, this is Brownsville's report. Here's the title up here. And look at their pre-K numbers for the last 4 years, and then look at this year's. And so that's a huge drop, right? And that's parents, I'm sure, trying to definitely keep their children safe. And even some of the other numbers, I'm going to come back over here. Let me go down and look at This is Ed Couch Elsa. So Ed Couch Elsa, same type of thing. Here's the pre-K 445. They did have a down year, but then they got back up to 449, and then here's 301. And again, in pre-K, I always think also, okay, some districts definitely did full day pre-K or not because of changes in House Bill 3. They possibly did do a full day pre-K. So that may be some of the impact. But again, you're taking a hit this year very much because of the pandemic, no doubt. Census block, tier comp ed funding, a lot of information here, and be sure that you try and tie this back to TA's report. And there was some explanation about not actually being able to tie the number. There was some timing issues there. So we can, and I'm going to talk about comp ed on the state allotment one, which will provide good information. But I did ask yesterday when I emailed y'all to please look at your books and please let us know if anything just does, kind of like McAllen did with Omar in terms of something just doesn't look right. Please bring it to our attention, because nobody knows your numbers the way you know your numbers, type of thing. So here's the comp ed one, has all the districts listed. ADA for all districts. We did ADA. This one is usually several pages, if you recall from past years, but we did not have some of the numbers accessible to us because of the just counting through the 6 weeks. And Diana, if you're still on and I misstate something, please correct whatever I'm misstating by any chance. So there isn't as much information, and you see a lot of zeros in some cases. Well, this is actually that special ed type numbers, but it just obviously the pandemic and the recording of attendance and so forth created some issues for us over here on the budgeting tools, because it's just not your typical six weeks type of year. So this report is only 13 pages long. The staffing ratios, indicators of financial problems based on student and teacher ratio. I even challenge all of us to go, because as I was reviewing these reports yesterday, go and compare, of course, to each other, and also compare to charters possibly, but not even charter. Some of the districts get really close to the charter numbers also on the student and staff ratios. So just take a look at those. These are really, well, I think all of these reports are super cool. This one is looking like lengthier because I think this is a one by function, and we do it by support staff and then of course by professional staff. And my machine acts like it's a little tired for Friday. It shouldn't, but I don't even like that number. We should have put in a filler page in terms of 1 of 667. So it's by function and it's by district. So here is, just so you understand the report, here's the professional support staff for 11 and support staff. And this is Brooks, and then 12, and then 13. And then you go X number of pages and you get to Brownsville. So it is a pretty lengthy report. This one, again, for comparison purposes. This one is 88 pages, and here's Brooks, and here's their support personnel by function, right? Especially the FTE numbers. And here is, these are the professionals by function. And then here's Brownsville, all of their functions, and again, FTE, and this is support, and then here's Brownsville's professional. So if you even want to discuss, the setup of the reports, please definitely let us know. But there's a lot of information here too. Sometimes folks just want to know quickly, okay, how many counselors does Laredo ISD have versus, McAllen ISD, for instance, because they're similarly sized. This one is the one by role, and it's just more of the FTE and the student staff ratio primarily. So the ratios are on here, and again, by job type or role, I should say. And then we also have the auxiliary role. So this is good now that TA and PEAMS is collecting, more of the support staff by role versus just a number that summarized everybody in past years. Staffing guidelines are just standard staffing guidelines, and we go in there and update this on our side. We've just used the same ones, I think, for a few years now. So I'll ask our HR director to look at that at some point. But hopefully, again, all of you are using staffing guidelines. I hope everyone is, all the districts and charters are. And more importantly, not only that you have them, of course, but that you use them, that you actually are applying them. Now, this is one of my favorite reports in all of these budgeting tools. And this one, again, cabinet level, board level type of report, very summarized: school year, fund balance, revenues, expenditures, student staff ratio, enrollment, and all staff. And so you definitely want to see or know if there's a decrease in fund balance, then there could be explanations for that. And not just, we overspent. There could be definitely projects that tie some of this money up. So here's fund balance history, in terms of looking at Brownsville. Revenues, expenditures. This also helps you quickly calculate how you're going to do on first. And again, enrollment and the lines, right? Let me show you, well, and obviously some of our charter colleagues, and some of the districts had some of these lines too. Look at IDEA and their enrollment, their revenues, and expenditures. And there were some districts that had closer to this too, but these are the types of lines you want to see. Obviously, this would be ideal. Enrollment is increasing, so are revenues, and expenditures are always under the revenue lines. I know, was it Sherryland? Who was it? I know that there were some districts that actually looked at this somewhat. There were some years here for Los Fresnos. And then some of you just have different types of lines. So again, I love this report because for comparison purposes, and you can call a colleague, call a colleague and find out, okay, we had similar happenings, but obviously we did not land in the same place type of thing. So again, definitely talk to your cabinet about this one, or at least I would try to. And per pupil expenditures, this, anything accounting, object code, or function related, love. So here's a quick, if you want to go, I've used this example before. If you want to go quickly compare attorney fees or audit fees, or, for your child nutrition program, food expenditures and so forth, this one gives it to you by object code. And it gives it to you per pupil amount too, which can really vary. Here's teacher salaries, or 6119, actually teachers and other professionals for Brownsville. And then you can quickly compare it to, Donna can quickly compare to Brownsville, who can quickly compare to Ed Couch-Elsa and so forth, and see where that all is leading. So that's there by object code. And another all-time favorite of mine is this program intent code allotments. And of course, some things changed here. And let me go look. Adele, I don't know if Adele is still on, but let me look at McAllen. And I say that too. Okay, so here's McAllen's, and I know here that's a little bit better. In terms of viewing. So of course you should be tracking GT internally, right? You should be tracking GT internally, because folks still expect you to have different costs. And I'm sure nobody dropped the pick. You're still using the GT pick, but we're not tracking it here at the 55% amount anymore. CTE, and as a reminder, the state program allotments, now they're all, as of House Bill 3, 55%, right? So we went from the 58% to the 55%. So monitor, and you should have a fund balance reference. I have run into districts that they did not spend all of their state program allotment dollars, and but in the fund balance, you just see unassigned. You don't really see an entry or set aside for that, and you should, because TA is still requiring you to spend this, even if it's in a 3-year time frame. How they're tracking that exactly, I'm not sure. State special ed. So here is, in this case, program allotment does the 55%, and it shows what was spent between PIC 23 and 33. And on some districts too, the PICs that are available, they're not, some of you aren't recording any expenditures, and you should be. So this is one schedule again to look at very closely to see what, and McAllen's also a nice example of, and there are others, no doubt. I know we spend, a lot of districts spend 100% of their allotment on let me just double check here, on the students, and that's totally okay. And if it's needed, of course, totally okay. Spend 100%, 120%. I think a year ago or so, I saw one spending 160%. Now, McAllen is a good example of the allotment was 17.7 million, almost 8. And they've spent in program intent code 23, 15.1, and in 33 in pre-K, 42,000. So they did not spend 100%. And so that, and I have had this discussion with special ed directors at a meeting. I'm not so sure that I was real popular there, but you know, you need to sometimes go in there and look. Some districts, see, if I look at McAllen on state comp, 22 million versus 24. But if I come back and look, now I see their bilingual number. I think it was Edinburgh that I looked at yesterday, along with looking at it. Oh, actually, let me see La Jolla real quick. Hope not too dizzying, folks. La Jolla is a good example of a bigger, much bigger increase, 31 million to 40. And let me find Edinburgh right quick. Edinburgh, or it may have been Brownsville. 33 to 45. So some of you gained huge dollars on the CTE side. And I'm not going to point out again the ones that have zeros on some of the program intent codes, but go and look at your program intent codes. And if you don't have amounts there, and especially again, if you compare to another district, or you know you have that student type, of course, you should have program codes. That could just be an accounting type function. So again, look at that schedule carefully, and high school allotment, I didn't talk about that, but that we left GT and we left high school allotment because if you had been underspending the last couple of years at least, then don't forget, you still have to spend that money. You know, you've got that three-year window. Okay, M&O tax rate, 10-year comparison. We probably could have gone, actually on the INS one, a couple of digits more, but this, you know, it was so nice when, you know, y'all were almost all at the same rate. It was easier, but now in 2021, look at the rates. They tend to be all over the place. Be careful with this. If your county assessor collector, we have one district in our area, and TA is checking. They are definitely checking that you calculated this right, because we do have a district in our area that pretty much got the letter got a letter from TA saying you did not set your M&O tax rate correctly. You overcharged it or whatever. So that district's doing some work to get that resolved. But again, you know, it was so easy when, you know, the numbers were just, everybody was pretty comparable, especially if you had already passed a TRE. And even if you hadn't, we knew the rate type of thing. So there's a quick graph here. These are the number of districts that we have at, that must be South Texas IS. Yeah, that must be South Texas ISD, the lowest tax rate there, but across all of us type of thing. And then here's in the 90s, and here's the dollar and so forth, the number of districts that are at those rates. And now this graph looks a little squirrely for different reasons and the different tax rates that happen. So anyway, that just kind of looks like it's our pre-K or K graph or something like that in terms of just nice little lines type of thing. Here's interest and sinking fund. So this one goes back to House Bill 1525. Definitely look at, you know, because again, when that swap and drop deal, and this may be a good thing, and well, this should be a good thing in the sense that just keep in mind, I realize M&O pennies got you a whole bunch more state revenue, but you were more than likely and very likely still not maximizing your state revenues, period. Because if you drop that INS tax rate, then you're not maximizing on the on the IFA or EDA side of the house. So some of you brought, I still remember being impressed by Brownsville, because here they went down on their, here's the 2 years where they had a TRE, and then they just brought the pennies back. They just brought the pennies back. And so, and then I know in a former district of mine, we could only get the board to be more comfortable with a gradual type increase. So here's where we went from 17 cents to 21 cents, you know, type of thing. And let's see. And actually there's been a little adjustment since then. So again, the way the state is set up is our goal is to try to maximize revenues at the state level, obviously too. And when we do the swap and drop, that's not doing that necessarily. And districts have different considerations, obviously, because, you know, when you're looking at you've got now legislators looking at fund balance too. So it's like, well, if your fund balance is already pretty healthy, and you know, the trending of your fund balance is working for you, then we're back to being in good shape. Okay. The district's hopefully back to being in good shape. All right, unless anybody has any comments or questions on, and I don't think I see anything. Let me look over here on the more, but I don't think I see anything on the chat. No. So that's a very quick review of the budgeting tools, and the books are out. The summarized book is out. Definitely would like to thank Diana and Marco, of course, Christina and Oscar, and all the folks involved in putting these together. Please review your book, and please let us know if something is not quite right. Let's see here. Let me read a comment from Diana here. Speaking of student enrollment trends, PEIMS announcement. Okay, great. This has been shared with PEIMS contacts. All LEAs are required to submit attendance of 1st through 4th 6 weeks by April 5th, and that's coming right up, through TSDS PEIMS. This will be used for legislative session to evaluate on-campus participation, remote instruction. Student information systems must comply with this quick turnaround. So just be sure that you go back and talk to your folks at your districts, whether it's your PEIMS people, your SIS folks, and so forth, to get that going. And thank you, Diana, for that.